Hello YouTube, so today I'm going to make another video presenting this LED matrix which I have made right here. So as you can see, several numbers are being displayed. It is actually counting up from 0 through 9, and it is showing these numbers on a 9x9 LED matrix. So this matrix is just a simple grid of LEDs and is connected through an Arduino to display these numbers. How I actually wrote out these numbers was I wrote the numbers down on paper and I transcribed it to display at each pixel that you could see. And the Arduino, what it's doing is it's actually scanning through each row one LED at a time. It's doing that really fast. Here I have two other matrices which I have made. This one's right here is pretty old actually, and it has white LEDs, though I haven't gotten that one to display yet, and you can see the soldering's kind of messy on that one. This one is a previous attempt I tried to make. As you can see, it's a lot cleaner, and you could kind of see how it's wired is that the cathodes are just bent above the anodes, but as you can see, the anodes are just bent straight down to the board, and I think that actually rips some of them out, so some of the LEDs on that matrix don't work very well. These are very inexpensive red LEDs, and I bought a lot of them. Alternatively, you could see on this matrix, I have both the anodes and the cathodes bent above the board. So you could see that the anodes go out through the side and the cathodes go out through the top. And this actually will multiplex the LEDs so you have a lot less pins to deal with. Only pins for the cathodes and the anodes. And those just go straight to the pins on the Arduino through some 1 kilo ohm resistors. Anodes are on the lower pins, cathodes are on the higher pins connected through 1 kilo ohm resistors. The resistors will dim the LEDs just enough, but keep in mind the display is scanning all across 81 LEDs, so the LEDs are not going to be as bright as they would be if you just connected them straight up to power. Yeah, so they're displaying each number, and what I actually want to do is I want to have this matrix work in a way so I could display a string or maybe play a game on it or something, though that might be hard to do since the pixel density on this is quite low. It can really only display one character. But anyways, let's get into the code and see how it actually works. So here's the code. As you can see, it's pretty simple. You're just setting all the pins as outputs for the LEDs. Yeah, so you have all the outputs for the anodes and the cathodes. And then what you're doing is lower down here we have some functions, and those functions are just to refresh the display because it's scanning through a bunch of scan lines. And over here we have a bunch of arrays, and these arrays actually store the things that we want to display. So if it's a 1, the LED is on. If it's a 0, the LED is off. And what it is going to do is these arrays are going to be used to display the characters which we want to display. And if you look carefully, you can actually see the characters themselves are represented by the 1s. So lower down here we have a bunch of for loops, and these for loops, what they do is they create a delay basically, because what these functions do is the function makeFrame is just going to scan through it once. So if you want it to scan through multiple times and actually hold the same character, you put it in a for loop, so it'll scan through, it looks to be about 200 times to display for a couple seconds. And in the function makeFrame, what it does is pretty simple. Basically makeFrame, it scans through all the columns or the rows depending on how you hold the display, and it sets up how the anode is. So if it's low, then the LED can be turned on. Obviously, if the anode is high, then you can't turn on the LEDs. And this is for each row, so it's any LED in that row could turn on. So then we actually have to use this other function, and that will determine the actual LED which gets light up. That takes us down here to the switch output function, which scans through the columns and it relates the column to the row. So if the anode is low and if the column, which is the cathode, is high, so the cathode is high and the anode is low for one particular LED at a time, then that LED will be on. And this also has a condition where it compares it to the array, so that the value in the array has to be matching the current LED at the index of that array, and the LED will turn on. And we also have this delay microseconds. What that does is it will just provide the time between each row, and obviously the lower that is, the faster it'll go, and that's why we have these for loops up here. The for loops they'll make sure that the character is on long enough for you to read it. And that's basically how it works. So I hope you found this video informative on how to make an LED matrix, and thank you for watching.